This is Business Rockstars. I'm Brittany Whitney, and my guest today is Mona Bijoor, author of Startups and Downs and founder of JOOR. Hi, Mona. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So for those who are not familiar with you and your background, tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, I started off as a management consultant, and I worked on a lot of consumer products and retail companies, advising them on how to get to exits or advising them on how to grow their businesses. And then I went to business school and started working as an operator for several fashion and retail companies. And through that experience, I realized that there was a huge opportunity to change the way brands and retailers do business. They were conducting their entire business on paper. So all invoices were on paper, all products were viewed on paper. And so this was 10 years ago, and there was a tremendous opportunity to digitize, bring an offline world online. And so I started JOOR about 10 years ago and built that business. And now I run an investment firm where we invest in retail tech companies as well as consumer product companies, franchises, real estate, and so on.
Yeah, and you're a partner at King's Circle Capital.
That's right.
So I want to talk a little bit about JOOR, though.
Yes.
So when you first started your business, what was the first step you took, and what were some of the challenges you faced?
The first step was, oh my gosh, I have this great idea. Someone must be doing it. So there was a lot of research that I did to figure out who was in the market already providing this software. And I quickly realized no one was really doing it, and the few that weren't doing it well. And so then I felt a real, big motivation to kind of hurry up and figure it out, because if I had thought of this great idea, then someone else was going to think of it.
Right, totally. And by 2016, you had grown the company to process over $10 billion in gross merchandise value. Tell us about that time in your life.
I mean, externally, things were going really well, but to be quite honest, internally, there was a lot of turmoil, not just within the company, but also with me kind of personally, because to manage that type of growth,
right.
It's hard to keep kind of all your houses in order. So that was kind of a big turning point for me, because I had achieved this huge benchmark, but my physical house was not in order, my financial house was not in order, my family life was not in order, and so I really needed to take a step back and say, okay, how do we create this balance? Because what's working externally isn't really working internally.
Right. And did you ever have that fear of failure, even with that huge successful benchmark and milestone? Were you ever afraid that you were going to fail?
Failure is a great motivator, but it tends to tire me out personally and cause a lot of distraction. So I tend not to look at failure as something that is kind of important. I'm more focused on kind of, if someone's telling me no, or if I'm not getting what I want, how do I change the levers? How do I pull different levers to get the outcome that I want?
And you're now an author of Startups and Downs.
Yes.
So tell us, what is your book about?
So over the last couple years, I've been advising a lot of first-time founders. And what I found was that the issues that they face are all the same. And the biggest problem is not anticipating, not knowing what's coming next. And I found that I was giving the same advice over and over again. And so I wrote this book because I felt like it was a great way to kind of get the word out on how to handle challenges that every first-time founder faces, and how to deal with it mentally.
Yeah, and what would you say are some of the most common challenges that founders do face when starting a business?
Yeah, I think the issues are very, very much the same across founders. So finding capital, hiring talent, dealing with team losses, dealing with competition, getting that work-life balance that you need. And so in this book, I talk about my own journey and how I overcame those challenges, but I also talk to 10 other very successful founders to get in their heads on how they've overcome these challenges through kind of mental agility.
Has there been kind of a common theme or with your own personal experience compared to the other founders that you've interviewed?
Absolutely. There are 7 tenets described in the book, and we won't go through them all today,
Right.
but they are very common throughout all the founders. I interviewed a lot of founders and distilled kind of 10 interviews down for this book, and there are lots of similarities across all founders. Founders tend to really not view the lack of resources, so lack of capital, lack of time, lack of people, as roadblocks. Most of us kind of stop when we're like, oh, we don't have enough money to do this, or I don't have enough time.
Right.
They're very resourceful in figuring out how to get to that yes and how to move forward. They have set up their own definition of success, so they're not really in the business of comparing themselves to other people. They have their own standard. And they are very, very focused on their purpose, and their purpose often is much bigger than, oh, I want to go exit, oh, I want to like be in the press, or oh, I want this notoriety. It's way bigger. It's about adding value and making a huge difference.
It's amazing. And what did you learn from writing this book?
I learned so much, but I mean, I think that the biggest takeaway for me is that we really don't have limits. We might have constraints, but we really are limitless in our kind of human potential. And that was reaffirming. I kind of knew that, and you need that. You need to exercise that spiritual muscle when you're an entrepreneur, but this really solidified that belief for me, and that, you know, if you really set your mind to something, anything is possible. And no really just means no, not right now, but you can kind of overcome that. And I think the other thing that I learned was that you need a strong support system around you. So oftentimes I find that first-time founders feel like they need to use their work ethic, their wit, their perseverance to kind of tackle any of the challenges that they have. But it's really those that have a strong support system around them where they can model behavior, they can get mentorship on specific issues to allow them to go faster.
And what were some of the challenges that you faced either early on in your business or writing this book that you had to overcome yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest challenge is kind of the amount of pressure that I put on myself to kind of get to the vision that I want to realize. And that pressure can be so daunting for an entrepreneur or an author. And sometimes it's just easier to take a step back and breathe and say, okay, things will get done. And focusing that energy on kind of getting the resources in place rather than worrying about kind of failure, as you mentioned earlier.
What advice would you give a wantrepreneur, someone who wants to start or grow a business but has no idea where to even begin?
Yeah, I mean, I think kind of tactically, it's, you know, making sure that the market that you want to serve is big enough, and that people need what you're trying to provide, that there's a true pain point. Making sure that you surround yourself with the right team. Maybe you don't have the capacity to hire a team, but if you can't hire a team, finding the support system around you to get you to kind of your next set of goals faster. And then I think it's really making sure that you've defined your kind of meaning of success. So it's so easy to say, oh, success means, you know, selling my company for a lot of money, or success means that, you know, I have all this fame and fortune. But oftentimes, you know, an individual's definition of success is much different. And so making sure that you don't get into the comparison trap where you feel like you're comparing your growth and your evolution to other people.
And I know you mentioned you mentor founders, you mentor companies. Who is your mentor, and what did you learn from them?
I have so many mentors, and what I've done is I've set up kind of a mentor in each area of my life that's important to me. So I have a mentor kind of for my physical goals, for my spiritual goals, as well as my career goals. And right now I have an amazing spiritual mentor that has been really great about making sure, one of my goals is to really stay calm and breathe through kind of really tough situations. Because what I found is that I often hold my breath, and kind of the physiology of when I'm going through a tough time is really not optimal. And so I have a spiritual mentor who has been really amazing, teaching me how to meditate and kind of stay focused during kind of challenging times.
That's so important.
Yes.
And who is this book geared towards? If someone's watching and they're not not sure if they should purchase the book or not?
Well, it's geared to any small business, big business owner, anyone who is kind of managing a team of people. Maybe they're an entrepreneur, meaning an entrepreneur within an organization. Anyone that really wants to learn how to use their mindset and get a talk track. Everyone knows that mindset is important, but what do you say to yourself to get you out of bed in the morning when times are really tough?
Right.
Anyone who wants to kind of learn that, there are tips, techniques, tricks in this book from a variety of perspectives that provide those answers.
That's great. And where can people purchase your book?
It's available on Amazon and select bookstores.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It was a pleasure speaking with you.
Likewise. Thank you for having me.
This is Business Rockstars. That was my amazing guest, Mona Bijoor, author of Startups and Downs and founder of JOOR.